Don't come back if you can't even handle basic housework. My mother-in-law yelled at me angrily. She said this while I was in the hospital with a broken leg. The ironic thing was that she was the reason I got hurt, but instead of apologizing, she wanted to throw me out of the house. At that point, I had had enough. "Oh, I'd be happy to leave, ma'am," I replied with a smile, but a few days later, something happened that changed everything. "Do you have any idea, Mom?" my husband asked her. "Did you not know about Emily?" When my husband revealed the truth, my mother-in-law's face went pale. "My name is Emily Johnson. I married Alex 3 years ago after meeting him through a friend. Alex's family runs a small diner, mostly managed by his mother. His father passed away when he was young, so she raised Alex by herself, which I knew must have been a tough journey. At first, I respected her deeply. After we married, I kept working, as Alex wanted. He was running the diner alongside his mother, but my mother-in-law didn't like that I wasn't helping around the house. A woman who doesn't even do chores? And working? Women don't earn much anyway. She would complain every day. Soon, her complaining turned into harassment. "You don't do any chores," she'd say, and if I found time to help, she'd criticize my work. "You're not even doing it right. Do you even care?" No matter how hard I tried, nothing seemed good enough for her. She'd scold me, calling me useless and often lecturing me for hours. My stress kept growing. When I tried to talk to Alex about it, he just said, "It's between you two, don't drag me into this," and kept out of it. Then, one day, things took a turn. The diner was closed, and my mother-in-law left early in the morning. By evening, I received a sudden call, demanding that I come and get her. The call ended abruptly before I could even refuse, leaving me with no choice but to reluctantly head to the train station. When I finally reached the station, she did nothing but complain all the way home, accusing me of being late and complaining about the heating system. It was nothing new, so I just nodded and shrugged it off, but I guess that got on her nerves. "What kind of attitude is that? Don't you think it's disrespectful to your mother-in-law?" she snapped. In a fit of rage, she raised her hand against me, even though I was driving. "Ouch, stop it, I'm driving," I said. "Quiet," she yelled, "don't you dare talk back to me." My pleas fell on deaf ears as she was blinded by anger. Not satisfied with slapping me, she tried to kick me hard, but her foot hit the steering wheel. The next thing I knew, I was in a hospital bed. "Where am I?" I asked the nurse, who was changing my drip. "You were brought to the hospital after a car accident," she explained. "You broke your right leg and have cuts and bruises all over your body." "How's my mother-in-law?" I asked, concerned. "She only has a few scratches, no one else was injured," the nurse reassured me. I felt slightly relieved. However, when my mother-in-law came to my room, she immediately started yelling at me. "It's all your fault I got injured. You need to pay me compensation," she screeched the moment she saw me injured. "Where did you get injured?" I asked. She rolled up her sleeve and showed me a small piece of gauze. Meanwhile, I was confined to my bed, unable to move. After all, the accident was her fault. She lost her temper and hit me while I was driving, causing the crash, but there wasn't a single word of apology from her. On top of being good for nothing, you want to be a nuisance to your own mother-in-law? You're nothing but a god of pestilence. I never liked you from the start. Don't you dare come back if you can't even do basic housework. The moment I heard those words, I could feel something snap inside me. "Oh, I'd be delighted to do that, ma'am," I said, before I even knew it. My mother-in-law just stood there with a stunned look on her face. "I won't be returning to your house. I'm going to divorce Alex. Thank you for everything until now," I said as I gave a slight bow. My mother-in-law snapped out of her shock and responded, "Oh, how unusual for you to listen for once. Yes, just as you say, I'm useless and worthless. I don't belong in your house," I said, pretending to be downcast. She left the hospital room saying, "Oh, I see," unable to say anything more. Even after that, my mother-in-law kept coming to my hospital room and complaining. "You'll end up on the streets if you can't come back to our house. It'll be too late to regret it then." "Yes, you're right. It would have been better if you had done this sooner," I replied casually, not looking up from my phone. "You're absolutely right," she kept complaining. "Are you listening?" I ignored her as usual, scrolling on my phone. This happened several times. A week after I was admitted to the hospital, my mother-in-law came to my room to complain again. As usual, I ignored her, but then, suddenly, my husband Alex burst in, pale-faced. "Oh, It's unusual for you to visit. What changed your mind? I asked. What on earth is this? Alex asked, holding up a divorce paper with my details already filled in. I asked my family to mail it. I'm glad it arrived just fine, Alex said, with a slight smile. I calmly told him everything my mother-in-law had said to me. Mom, did you not know? Emily earns way more than I do. Alex turned pale as he asked this in a shaky voice. Yes, I've been working for a large corporation since before we got married. I've worked hard and achieved good results, so I hold a fairly high position now. My salary reflects the toughness of the job and, as you put it, is quite substantial. But she doesn't look like she earns that much, does she? My mother-in-law retorted. She always wears the same clothes. That's because Emily has been spending her money on our diner, Alex explained. The diner my mother-in-law runs was on the brink of bankruptcy when Alex took it over. It was in a tough spot, and his mother had no business acumen. He'd been trying to turn it around, and I had been using my salary to help keep it afloat, offering advice on management. Without my help, the diner would probably go out of business soon. No, it can't be true. There's no way that useless woman could do such a thing, my mother-in-law exclaimed, still flustered and unable to believe what she was hearing. I showed her my phone, which I had been using until just a moment ago. What is this? She asked, staring at the screen. It's the data recording of your diner's performance, and this here is my pay stub. My workplace has digitized our payslips, I explained. My mother-in-law stared at my phone and slowly turned pale. No, that can't be, she stuttered. I should mention that I've already consulted with the police about the accident you caused. What? My mother-in-law's expression was utterly shocked. I could only sigh in exasperation. Since an accident occurred, of course the police will conduct an inquiry, right? So I reported everything exactly as it happened to them, and I've submitted the dash cam footage. Why would you do that? She asked, visibly nervous. From her reaction, it seemed like she was aware that she caused the accident. There's a chance you could be held criminally liable, I said, but if you admit it, you might get off with a lighter sentence. After a while, my mother-in-law started trembling, and then to my surprise, she knelt before me. I'm sorry, I had no idea. We've been living off your money. I'm sorry about the accident too. I'm reflecting on my actions. Please forgive me. She changed her attitude right away. Until now, she'd never uttered an apology. Is it that easy to say sorry when it means she can get off the hook? The sight of her was pathetic. It made me more disgusted than angry. Emily, Mom's really sorry. You'll forgive her, right? Alex said, his voice pleading as he laid his hand on my mother-in-law's back. She looked up at him with tearful eyes, and he nodded reassuringly. Watching them try to garner sympathy, I couldn't help but speak up. What are you saying? I will never forgive you. Huh? Isn't it obvious? I said, actually, I intended to divorce you even before this mess with your mom. Alex was taken aback by my unexpected response. Even when I was seriously injured and hospitalized, you never visited me. You spent my salary without a shred of gratitude. I've been fed up with you for a while now. What's the point of staying married to you? In fact, you're only bringing me down. That's why I'm divorcing you. I smiled brightly, in stark contrast to Alex and my mother-in-law, whose faces were filled with despair. There was some fuss afterward, with Alex throwing a tantrum, but once I mentioned getting a lawyer involved, he quickly signed the divorce papers. He should have just signed them without making such a fuss. I couldn't be more disappointed in him, but the regret of marrying him cut deep. Once they lost my support, their family diner quickly faced operational issues and shut down in no time, leaving Alex and my mother-in-law in a poor state. My mother-in-law had said she would be left on the streets, but it seems they were the ones in that predicament. They sold off the diner for peanuts and moved to a rundown apartment. Having no work experience outside the diner, they could only find low-paying jobs, barely scraping by. By the way, it turned out that my mother-in-law had lied about losing her husband at a young age. She was actually quite the player, and her fed-up husband had filed for divorce and left her. Even on the day of the accident, she was out gallivanting with another man. I found out these details from a police officer who was investigating the accident. I have nothing but gratitude for the police who kept up the investigation. My mother-in-law will probably be charged with some crime at some point. Already living a miserable life, if they end up in police custody, they will likely face ruin. Perhaps sensing this, I received a plea for reconciliation from my ex-husband after our divorce. If you continue to bother me, I'll have the cops come for you and your mother, I threatened. After that, he never showed up in front of me again. The divorce went through smoothly, and I cut ties with my in-laws. My broken bone healed after treatment. Currently, I'm working hard while still recovering from my injury. I had been using my salary for my in-laws' diner before, so I had almost no money left for myself. But it's different now. I'm working for myself and able to spend money only on myself. I had no idea how much happiness this would bring. I'm thinking of valuing myself more, and if I can find a partner who values me, I'm considering getting remarried.